Hey everyone, and welcome back to Heart Breathings. Today I have an exciting video for those of you who have been hoping to write a longer series, because we are going to talk about how I created a series Bible inside a wiki. So I'm going to explain to you what a wiki is, why I decided to use it, and how it works so well for my series Bible. So this has been a super highly requested video because a lot of people out there who are writers are writing a world in which you've got multiple stories being told. And once you start getting deep enough into a series, you really need some kind of series Bible. So what is a series Bible? A series Bible is basically just a record of all the true things about your series. Anything about the town, the people, anything that is actually canon, like that has been written into your story, that you know is the truth, so that when you get 5 books in and you try to remember the name of that guy who she went in and talked to at the pharmacy, you'll be able to go back and look and see what was his name, rather than having those pesky inconsistencies that tend to pop up when we don't keep track of that. The other thing is it's going to help you a lot in your writing, because instead of having to go back to the book, search for the name, try to find out what you called this person, or whether he had blue eyes or green eyes, or whether the pharmacy was next to the library or the library was next to the grocery store, or whatever thing you've already written into your series, instead of having to go back and spend the time reading through your series and trying to figure out what you had put, or guessing and getting it wrong and then ending up with things completely all a mess throughout your series where it's inconsistent throughout, you'll just be able to go in, take a look at what you've written down in your series Bible, and find it so much easier. When I first started writing the Shadow Demon Saga, back then it was called the Peachville High Demon Saga, I had 6 books that were in my original story arc. And I didn't really start needing a series Bible until I was about 4 books in, and then I started moving into the fantasy world of my story. Everything up to that point in the first 4 books happens in the town of Peachville, which is an imaginary town in Georgia, which is pretty much modeled after the town I grew up in, which is the town of Hawkinsville, Georgia, a small Georgia town. And so it was kind of easy to keep track of things. I did have really an unofficial series Bible. I just had one of those 3-ring binders with a bunch of like college ruled notebook paper in it, and I would just jot things down, like here's this character Marianne, and she's got blue eyes and she has black hair, and here's some basic things about her. So I had a few pages that were sort of the beginning of my reference material. But when I started working on book 5, I started realizing, okay, now we're moving into the shadow world, and I've got this fantasy aspect, and there's all these characters starting to show up. There's all this backstory, and the world is just getting bigger. The books are getting bigger. There's so much more to the world. And I realized that this binder that had a bunch of scribble scratch on it was really not serving me. So I created a new binder. Instead of doing there wasn't a lot of like YouTube videos or anything else about how to create a good series Bible, so I didn't really know what else to do. So I just made a new binder with prettier paper, probably some washi tape on it, and I started getting more specific about the types of information that I tracked. Made sure I had, eye color, hair color, and all the basics. But I also would say, like, these people were here at this meeting, these people weren't. Here's how this types of magic work, and started to make reference to the types of magic. Like, I started to kind of reference the magic system itself. But what I found over time, especially when I finished the main 6-book arc and I started to go into writing some character backstory and then writing 4 POVs and the world expanded yet again, was that having a binder that had limited amount of information and I had to keep like turning through the pages to find anything still left me opening up a PDF of my book or a Word document of my book and searching for things constantly. And I even had an assistant at the time that I would have to send her notes as I was writing book 7 and say, can you tell me what I said about the moons in the shadow world? Because I can't remember if I said there were 4 moons or 6 moons, and if I said, what colors they were and all this stuff. And I started to get confused because, especially with the fantasy world, you start to have all of these huge things in the world building that you need to track. So basically what I decided to do when I started to talk to my husband about what a pain in the butt this was to try to keep this in a binder where it was just like physically written, was he said to me, well, at work we keep a wiki. So the official definition of a wiki is a website that allows collaborative editing of its content and structure by its users. So it's basically, if you think about wikis, you probably think about Wikipedia, which allows a lot of people to go in and edit the information and add articles and different things like that. So that can be valuable, especially if you have an assistant, or like when I was working on the Willow Harbor series with 3 other YA and NA authors, it was great because we were able to create a wiki that we could all go into. Whereas if you were creating something just in a Word document or even in your OneDrive, if you were trying to be collaborative, it just wouldn't really be as easy because you can't collaborate as well on some of those other programs. Whereas a wiki is just created on a website, and as long as you add those users to your wiki, everyone can update it and change it and so forth. So that can be really great and useful if you're doing collaborative things, or if you're having someone else help you with your wiki, like if you enrolled the help of some fans to go in and add to the wiki or whatever, then you don't have to do it all by yourself, and it's easy to collaborate. The other great advantage to using a wiki for this is that wikis are very easy to like cross link. So I'm going to show you examples of this once we get into the actual like screen share. The fact that you can easily cross link and cross reference and cross post and access stuff very easily that way and move easily between web pages is so super useful. You can also insert images, maps. You can have a page for every single character. You can have an entire section dedicated to the magic system or to the world building. You can just create endless number of pages, and you can link them together or group them in any way that you want. Another thing that you can do super easily that makes this amazing is you can search. Most wikis have a very powerful search function. So when I've created my Shadow Demons wiki, for example, I can just go into the search box and I can easily say moons, and it's going to pull up every single instance of when I've used the word moon. So if I'm, on deadline and I'm trying to go through my edits and I'm trying to search through and figure out what in the world did I say about the moons? Like, is it seasonal? Is it this or it's that? And I can't remember, then I can easily just go into my wiki page, search moons, and it's going to pull up every instance. And then I can find that page, find where I referenced it, and it's super easy. Of course, it's only easy because I've put that information into the wiki. So if you're just getting started as a writer and you see that you're going to have, or you plan to have, a longer series, especially in a fantasy world, but this would work in a romance series also, where you've got a town where there's recurring characters or particular places that you revisit. All of this stuff can be important for just about any type of series you write, but I find it's particularly useful with fantasy and magic system type things where you're in other worlds and there's magic types that, you're using different elementals and different things like that, because it can just be hard to keep all that information up in your brain. So anyway, if you're just at the beginning of this process, I highly recommend that you don't wait like I did until book 6 or 7 or 5 to start chronicling and journaling and your research and all of the facts about your series. Because if you start while you're writing and just make it a part of maybe your editing process or your final read through process that you go through, and you begin to create this wiki for every character in that first book, for every truth or fact that you put into the book about the world or the people, you're going to be so much better off, and you're going to save yourself a ton of time in the long run. You can just trust me on that. But if you're like me and you're further into a series and you're just now looking for a really great way because you have the need to organize your series better, then definitely keep watching, because I'm going to show you some examples of how I set up my own wiki and why it's working so well for me. So I will just give this as a slight caveat that one of the challenges to recording this video was that I want to show you real-time examples of why a wiki is so powerful. However, I can't show you my actual Shadow Demons wiki because there are tons of spoilers in there, and this is such a huge series for me, and I just can't afford to put any spoilers out there. Plus, there's things in there that haven't happened yet that may not happen. So I don't want to put out spoilers or expectations and have anybody stumble across it and be like, oh my gosh, this is going to happen, or oh my goodness, that's who the High Priestess was all along, because it would pretty much ruin my series. So I'm just not going to take a risk and put that actual information out there. So what you're going to be looking at today is a fake wiki that I have created specifically to show you an example of how you can set yours up. So this, of course, is not going to be as like spider webbed as my current wiki in terms of the cross posting and cross linking. It's definitely not going to be as beefy in terms of how many pages I have set up for this other series that has, over 1 million words written in it. But hopefully it will still give you a good example of what a wiki looks like and how it functions so that you can use this for yourself. Also, at the end of this video, I will be giving you some alternate ways that you can create a digital series Bible that doesn't involve using a wiki. But let's get started with the actual view of a wiki. Okay, so this is where we get to the fun part. I'm going to show you a sample wiki, and like I mentioned before, I'm not going to show you one of my completely done wikis because there's just too many spoilers in there and things that my fans don't even know about the series because I work ahead. So I can't show you that, but I'm going to give you an idea of at least the functionality that you can find in a wiki. I'm also going to just give you a little bit of a disclaimer here because Pbworks.com is what I use. So I'm going to go just to that main website for you real quick. This is not like a glowing recommendation that this is the best private wiki out there. I honestly just use this because my husband was familiar with using it in a collaborative way in a corporate structure. And so I just used it because it was free and it worked. So I'm not giving any kind of recommendation that this is the best one out there. It's just the only one I've tried. So if you don't like the looks of this one, you might be able to find a different one. You might even be able to find a wiki that's specifically tailored toward storytelling. This is more of a corporate one, and Pbworks has lots of different products, but you would go to their main site, pbworks.com, click on wikis and find their wiki hub. And when you click more, you will go to the /wikis.html, and there you can get started and create your own. So just a little disclaimer there that I'm not saying this is the very best wiki you can find. It's just the only one I've ever used. So I believe that most wikis are kind of put together in a similar way and they function in a similar way. If you guys would like to see, if you like the idea of this series Bible in a wiki and you'd like to see a walkthrough of exactly how to set one up from scratch, because what I'm going to be showing you is one that already has some pages and things done for you, then just let me know and I can start from scratch and create one for a new or upcoming series and show you guys that process. But for now, I'm going to show you one that I've put together for you specifically for this video that I've just called Sample Wiki. And all of my wikis are on this site and they can kind of talk with each other. So I'll show you that functionality as well. But basically on your wiki, you have a front page that you can just put the name of your series. You can put some book covers here. I've got the books in my series listed, as well as I just threw on some taglines that have worked well in different kinds of advertising that I've done just to keep track of those taglines. And all I had to do to set this up is you can see over here, this little pencil here, that's an edit button. And you just edit this any page, on your blog or anything like that. And you have basic functionality that's just you can bold things, underline, change the colors, the format, the font, the size. You can add source links, you can add links, you can add images if you wanted to. So if you look over here, you can say insert links, or I can go to images and files. And if I wanted to add another book cover or something, I've got a few different files here. So if I wanted to add the Shadow Demons book cover, I could add that, I could move it around, whatever I wanted to do. So all you have to do to upload a new file is click upload files, and you could add in different things from your desktop or whatever. So I have just added my box set, which is my series opener for the Shadow Demon Saga, but you could add, basically you can create anything. It's just a blank page. You can put whatever you want on the front page. When you're done editing, you can click save, and now it becomes just a static page. Another thing that you've got over here is this Navigator on the right side that will show you all of the different folders that you've created, and then you'll have different pages. And this is where the functionality of the wiki really starts to come in handy. You can also navigate from up here at the top where it says files, tasks, members, and so on. I'll talk a little bit about members and adding people as a collaborative thing toward the end of the video. But for now, let's talk about just the basic functionality for keeping a series Bible. So as you see, I don't have everything linked here, but I do have one book linked. In my regular wiki that has all of this that I've put years of work into, everything is linked here. So all of the books in the series would be linked to their own page. But since I just made this as a quick sample for you, it's just a few things that are linked. What I love about using a wiki as a series Bible is this way that everything that's a text on a certain page can interact with text from another page. It just makes it so incredibly easy, and it makes it super searchable. So let's say I come to the front page of my wiki and I know I'm going to be doing a little bit of research about this book, Shadow Demons. Then I would go to the Shadow Demons page because it's linked there, and it's going to automatically bring me to Book 4's page. Now, like I said, as I'm creating the wiki, I'm going to create a page inside my books folder. You can see over here, it's in the books folder that has every single book in my series. And so the information that I've just got up here on the sample wiki is the title of the book, what number of the series it is. I've got a link that goes out to my web page. So you can see this is just like the website page for the book in case I wanted to see like the links for where to buy it. I have the publication date as well and the book cover. And then I start out with the summary of the book. So of course I didn't put the full summary in here because that would take a lot of time, but I just sort of started with a summary. This book opens with Marianne, Harper, and Jackson exploring the ruined Crow Village. They are looking for any sign of a book that will give them information on how to release Harper from her role as Peachville's Prima. So just to give you an example again of the amazing interconnectivity of the pages, I would have each one of these characters could have their own page. The Crow Village could have its own page as a place in my places folder. Peachville could have its own page, and I actually have created a page, so I'm going to show you how to link that in just a second. But all the characters can have their own pages. So if I get to this and I'm sort of researching for the next book and it says, okay, this book opens with these 3 characters. If I'm like, okay, I want to see what I say about Harper, all I have to do is click on her name and it takes me to her page. And then on each character page, like you can create a page for each character in your series, no matter how small or how big, and you could star them if you wanted. So there's a little star here so that you could navigate to that page a little bit more easily from the front page. And I'll show you that as well. I've just got some very basic information about Harper. She is the main character in my Shadow Demons saga. So of course, in my real wiki, this is a really, really long page because I have a lot of things about her and how much she's changed over the course of like 1 million words that have been written about her. But as a basics, for every character, I keep their name and then any kind of note about them. So in later books, she discovers her true name is Harper Brighton. That's why she's Harper Madison Brighton. She's age 15 at the beginning of book 1. And I might even, like I believe in my other wiki, I have a thing about her age and how she ages up in each book. So she's no longer 15, obviously, by the book 10, which is the most recent release. Her hair color is blonde. Her eye color is brown. Other descriptions, like I said, I would probably have a lot more than just this. You could put anything you wanted to put about known quirks, like if she has a signature smile or tics that she does, like she often bites her bottom lip. So I would probably put that in there because it's just a characterization. But what I've added now, just to show you how the pages can interact, is that she's known to wear a ribbon around her wrist, and you'll see that ribbon is linked. And I'll show you where that goes in just a minute. I also will include a place where I put her relationships to other characters, just so I can remember. Now, of course, because she's the main character in my series, it's an easy thing for me to remember how she relates to most of the other main characters. But if I wanted to remember, for example, that she had a single encounter with this very minor character that might come into play in a later book, this is a place where I could put that. I could put the minor character's name, and then I could link to their page, but also have just a little bit of a description about what their encounter was. So for example, this ends up being one of the main POV characters later in the series, but Lazalia. She encounters Leah for the first time in Shadow Demons book 4. They have a contentious relationship due to Leah's relationship with Jackson. So if I wanted to, and what I would actually do, is I would always, when I mention a book, go in to the edit button like you saw me do just now, highlight the title of the book, and then click add link. And when I do that, what you're going to see is it's going to say insert link, and I could browse my pages and files to figure out where I wanted to insert that link. But it's super easy because you can see that I already have a page called Shadow Demons book 4. on the sample wiki. It also gives you a chance or an opportunity to create a new page. So if this was the first time I had mentioned a character or an item or a place, I could create a new page right here from this place. Or what I'm going to do, since I already have a page called Shadow Demons Book 4, is I'm just going to click on that, and now that linked this set of text here to that page. So when I go to click save, now all I have to do, if I'm reading through this and I see, oh, she just encountered her for the first time in this book, I click on the name of the book and it brings me back to the Shadow Demons page. Showing you another example of that when you're setting this up and how it becomes so magical when you're doing your research. So I can go to edit page here, and remember how I was talking about Crow Village or Peachville are places. So I can click on Peachville, go to add link, and I can see that I've got a few options here. Peachville, Georgia on the sample wiki. Now I told you I had created this as a sample wiki just for this video. So that is where I'm actually going to direct this piece of text. However, one of the other cool things about using a wiki like Pbworks is that if you have series that are interconnected, like I do, for example, my Shadow Demons Saga is connected to my Sacrifice Me series. They share a world, they share many characters. So if I already had a wiki done on Sacrifice Me and this character or this place already had a page over on that wiki, then I could choose that down here, and the two different wikis could talk to each other. So if that's confusing at all, let me show you the example. So obviously I already have the Shadow Demons Saga wiki. Like I told you, this is the one where there's all those spoilers and all that stuff I can't show you. However, because it's picking up over here on this sample separate wiki, I could link to the page for Peachville High School on my main wiki, or Peachville the town on my main wiki. And what that would do is I wouldn't have to recreate that page. So let's say you are writing your main series, this Shadow Demons Saga, and then you have your wiki all set up. Then you decide to write a spin-off series. You don't have to set up new pages for all of those characters or those rules or those items or those locations that you're reusing in the new series. All you have to do is, even though you're on a new wiki, you can link back to the old pages. So it kind of allows you to have this great interconnectivity between your different wikis. But for now, since this is still the sample wiki, I'm just going to do the sample wiki so I don't show you any spoiler pages. So then once that's saved, you'll see that this is now again a hyperlinked thing that's going to bring you to my Peachville, Georgia page. And you'll see over here in the Navigator that I've put that in a folder called Places. So again, very basic information here. A fictional small town in the middle of the state, several hours south of Atlanta. Harper is brought here from her latest foster home at the beginning of Beautiful Demons. And again, this would be another situation where I could edit this page and link to my Beautiful Demons page to show which book that was. She has moved into Shadowford Home for Troubled Girls. So again, this would be another opportunity to make a page in Places for Shadowford Home so that I could actually like include a picture of what I thought this house looked like. I could include like who lives there and who runs the place, and all of that sort of information. On the outskirts of Peachville, Georgia, where she is told this is her last chance to behave and avoid being sent to juvenile detention. So like I said, hopefully you can start to see how powerful this can become in terms of once you create pages for all the people, places, items, magic system, rules, and all of that sort of thing in your world, then you can connect each page, and each time you mention that on inside of a page to the next page. And it just makes it super, super easy to navigate. So when I click up here on files, you can see the basic folders that I already have set up. So I have a folder for each of the books, and then inside that I would have obviously a page for each of the books, as well as images and things like that for the books. I obviously have only done book 4 for this presentation, but you could put and you would likely put every single book, including, if you wanted to, side stories or spin-off books that would link to a separate wiki. I also have a folder here for characters. So every single character that I create or come across in my story world would have their own page. So Jackson Hunt also has his own page. And I have his hair color, his eye color, any other descriptions, like he has a signature eye, half smile, and his relationships. Other things that I would add on the character page are significant things about their, since I write a paranormal world, what types of magic they use and how they grow throughout the series. So I'm going to be continually building on that and changing their page as I write each new book. So if someone gets scarred or someone gets, something changes about their appearance or the way they learn to use magic, that would go on their page. And all of that stuff would be very easy to see on the page. So I would create a new page for every single character. Items of note are things like the ribbon that I talk about on Harper's arm. Places, so you've got Peachville, Georgia. The Crow Village would be another one. The Shadow World itself, which is my fantasy world that comes in starting at the very end of book 4, would be another place. There are castles, so I could separate like towns or countries, and you can actually nest folders inside of them. So I could put places, and then I could create a subfolder that had the names of like buildings or structures if I wanted to go that specific with it. And then I also have one for like the Order of Shadows, which is the main organization in my world. So you can create any kind of folder that you want and then have sub pages inside that folder. And like I said, you could also create sub folders that each had their own pages. So it gives you a lot of structural opportunities to do things like that. So I'm going to go back to characters and go back to Harper Brighton. So remember I said in part of her description is she's known to wear a ribbon around her wrist. So I could click on the word ribbon and it's going to take me to the items of note folder where I have a page called ribbon. And here I link back to her name again. Harper Madison is often known to wear a ribbon around her wrist. In book 1, Beautiful Demons, so there's another opportunity that in my main wiki I would be linking that back to the main book page, which would have a summary and everything else. She explains to Agnes that. And here I have an actual excerpt from the book. One of my foster moms works at a craft store. She always used to bring home tons of leftover ribbons, I said, feeling lame. I don't know, I just like to wear them for color. So that way I've given myself to refresh my own memory later as to why she's wearing these ribbons and why it's important. But then I continue on. She begins to wear ribbons in Demons Blue at this point. Ribbons become increasingly significant in Shadow Demons, which of course links back to the page for book 4, and Rival Demons, which I would link to the page for book 5, as Harper is taken prisoner by the Order of Shadows. And again, that's another opportunity to link this to my page for the Order of Shadows. Obviously, I remember right now who the Order of Shadows is because they're a big part of my series. But you might end up with a big series world where you're like, oh, I can't remember who the Order of Shadows is. How does that organization work? You know, that sort of thing. So it just gives you a chance to really interlink everything. While in captivity, she is bound by shackles that rub her wrists raw. When she is taken to be executed, she is forced to wear a white dress that later becomes bloodied and dirty. When she is freed and taken to the shadow world, which I would also link, she rips a strip of bloodied cloth from the hem of the white dress and wraps it around her wrist like a ribbon. So here I have another excerpt. Then and there, I vowed to wear it until I either died or won. It would serve as a constant reminder of my new purpose, my new destiny. I will never forget, which is an excerpt from Rival Demons chapter called Never Forget. So I would also link that. So in my main wiki, you would basically see pages just full of connected links to other pages. And it does take time to set all of this up. But if you're writing a 10, 12, 15 book series, you're going to need something like this. Now let me show you the other major part of having this sort of interconnected wiki and why I love using a wiki is this right here in the top corner. You've got a search function. So if I was back here and I was on, let's say, my front main page of my series and I was just coming into my wiki because I wanted to find out some information about Prima Demons. So I search for Prima Demon because I'm trying to find rules for Prima Demon. And of course, there's going to be a lot of stuff here that has some spoiler type stuff. It can't be avoided because it's pulling in from my main Shadow Demon Saga wiki. But I do see here that in the sample wiki, I mentioned Prima Demons on this page and it highlights anything there. So now I can see that, okay, here's where I said Prima Demon. And now I've got references to the Prima Demon. So not only can you go to files and search through these pages, and you can, you know, have connections between pages, like clicking on Peachville, which takes you to that, and it just interlinks in that way. You can also go to the search function and you can say, you know, the order of shadows, and it will show you, if you go here, it will show you the actual folder that's titled that. But you can also just click enter, and it's going to bring up every instance that you've mentioned the order of shadows. So you can see here that if I click on it, it's going to bring me to the folder where I have a page listed in it. But once this is heavily populated, this search function becomes extremely important, because let's say, you know, I'm working on book 11 right now, and I need my assistant to find out how many moons are in the shadow world, and I just can't seem to remember from my own, you know, writing of it, because it's something I haven't mentioned maybe since book 3 or 4. So what I can do, and this is another thing that's cool about Pbworks, and I'm not sure if it's specifically like part of every wiki, but I can go into tasks and I could create a task, like I could click new task and create a task for my assistant to research that. So when she logged in, like I could say to her, hey, can you go into the wiki and, you know, complete those tasks that I have for you. So I could have a bunch of research tasks here for her. And I could say, research the earlier books to see what I said about shadow demons' moons. I know Jackson's the one who mentions it while they're on a date. And so what she could do is she could come up to the search function and she could say, she could search for moons. Oops. And then she could look anywhere in the main series and see if there was any mention in the wiki about moons. So you can see it brings up, first of all, the task that I've given her. Then it also brings up a mention of it from Rival Demons inside my main wiki. And it also mentions something about the moons from my Willow Harbor series. So it's going to pull up every single mention of the moons from all of your wikis. So what's so great about this is that if you're working on like multiple series that are based in the same world and you've created wikis here, even if they're separate wikis, anytime you mention a word, a person, any specific set of text, it can pull a search from all of your different wikis and show you exactly where that reference is. And then if you knew it was Rival Demons chapter 9, for example, that you see something about 2 moons and what color they are, you could actually go back to that actual book and search through chapter 9. This saves so much time versus like having to actually like open up every single book file and search inside of it for anywhere you might have mentioned moons or someone's last name or, you know, anything like that. It just, the search function here saves you. Of course, it's only going to save you if you actually have taken the time to put this information and these pages in. So what I like to do is I actually didn't start this until I was starting to write book 7, 8, and so on. So this got started way late in my series, which I would highly recommend that you get started on a series wiki right when you're starting a book. But we did that with Willow Harbor. We started it right when we started the very first book. And every single time a book was finished, we would take, you know, a couple hours and go in and create pages for all of our characters, add maps of the places, add pages for any of the places or the magic systems or any of the rules that became fact in the world because the book was now finished. And that way, anyone else that was doing research on that particular series could easily find what they needed, like in just the click of a button or a simple search up here. And it wouldn't take going back through 3 or 4 books searching for the information. It saves so much time and it makes everything so much more organized. And like I mentioned before, some other functionality you have here, like let's say I know that I'm going back to Harper's page all of the time because she's the main character of the story. I could just click this star button and now she becomes a starred page. So when I go back out to files, or actually to my front page, and I've got this navigator over here, there's an option to just choose the starred pages and files. So I could say, okay, these are the 2 starred pages. And so it just makes things a little bit faster for navigation if you only have a few of those. But in terms of functionality, you can add and change these pages in so many different ways. You can add images, like for example, if I was going to Harper's page, I didn't do this for copyright reasons to show it in a video, but like Chloe Grace Moretz is someone that I think about as, like, if someone were to currently play Harper in a movie, it might be her. She would be a good example of someone I could see playing Harper in a movie. So I would put a couple sample pictures of Chloe Grace Moretz here. And of course I haven't done that because I couldn't, like, I didn't want to get in trouble with copyright infringement. But if it's your own personal wiki and you're not sharing it with anyone, you're not going to get in any kind of trouble for that. But you can put, so you could put celebrity character files in here, celebrity character images, you could put book cover images, you could put, you know, any other kind of inspirational images for a place. So for example, if you were going to, you know, your page that has the places here, and I wanted to give an example of what Peachville, Georgia looks like, then I could go into like add here, and I could add a file, and I could put a picture of what I think Peachville looks like. If I wanted to put like a picture of what the library looks like, you can always add those pictures. You can add descriptions, you can add actual excerpts from the books and that sort of thing. And it just becomes really, really powerful. So like I said, some of the main things that I love about this are the ability to interlink between pages, where you can just at a touch of a click, you can find the page that you need and constantly be linking back out to the pages. And the other thing is the power of the search engine. So if I wanted to put in like Shadowford, like I knew that Shadowford was the home for girls that she goes to, I can put in Shadowford in the search, and it's going to search all of my wikis for stuff about Shadowford. And I'm going to quickly navigate away from that because there you go with all the spoilers. But as long as you take the time to create pages for every place, every magic rule, every organization, every character, every book that you've written, and put a main summary in there, you're going to have opportunities to search this very thoroughly instead of having to go back and search through your books. And that's part of the reason that I absolutely love using a wiki for my series Bible. So I sincerely hope that you guys have enjoyed this inside look at how to create a series Bible using a wiki. For me, this has been an amazing tool. It's collaborative, it's easy to search, it's easy to cross-post, and it's easy to access it from anywhere. Whereas if I had used just like a Word document or something like that, I would have had to put it up in the cloud and then, you know, might not have been able to access it on my Chromebook, etc. And if you've watched my video on Google Docs, you know that I'm a big proponent of being able to use like web pages or different types of things that are in the cloud and have that functionality, so that no matter what computer you're on, no matter what house you're in, what state you're in, what country you're in, as long as you have your password, you can always access that information. It's just super important to me personally. So having a wiki, which is an online web page, and having everything stored in there has been super useful to me. However, not everybody wants to set up a wiki, and you maybe want to do a little bit more with like color coding or different things like that. So what you might want to check out is something like Onenote or Evernote. I know that some people have created very intense color-coded series Bibles in Onenote, and I do believe, so you guys can let me know in the comments, but I do believe that as long as you have a password, you can also access OneNote or OneDrive, which is a Microsoft product, from any computer, but I'm not 100% certain about that because I haven't used it. Evernote is also something that is an app, so you should be able to access that as well from like any computer. It may even have its own web page. So if you're interested in something like Evernote or OneNote and want to check those out, I don't have specific examples since I haven't used them, but you might be able to check out YouTube here and see if someone else has those examples, or search the web and see if there are other blogs that have them as examples, because I know I've seen them out there in terms of other writers using OneNote or Everdrive or OneDrive. So those are just another couple of things that you can use. I've also seen a ton of writers recommending that you print out pages and you use that as your series Bible. And even though I am an ultimate planner girl and I love to have everything on paper and I love my binders and everything else, this is one place where I would highly recommend that, especially if you have a series that's more than just a trilogy or whatever, that you definitely keep something digital, because you cannot open up a binder and search it. You have to physically turn pages, and it's just going to take you twice as much time. Plus, I find that with binders, you end up with sticky notes here, and everything didn't get, you certainly can't cross post. If I mention Jackson in a Hopper's page, I can't just click a link and suddenly it takes me to Jackson's page. I have to actually search for it and maybe get tab dividers and different things. And it just takes more time. That might be perfectly fine if you're writing a very simple series, or you only have a handful of characters, or it's only 1 or 2 or 3 books. But when you start getting into a bigger series where you've got 6, 10, 20 books, and you've got lots of characters, like you're writing a romance series, so every single book has 2 main point of view characters, you really need something digital. So I highly recommend this Wiki system, or something like OneNote or Evernote or something like that. Hopefully this video has given you a good idea of some ways that you can put together your own series Bible. I'd love to hear your comments below on what you thought of this system and whether you'd like to start trying it. I have down below given you an example of the one that I use, which is just Pbworks.com. This is just something that businesses typically use. It's not made for authors, so there may be another tool out there that's more specific to creating a book series. So if you have any suggestions on other wikis that are free or easy to use for authors, feel free to link those down below as well. And hopefully you guys have enjoyed this and it's been informative for you. If you have enjoyed this, I would love for you to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Hit that like button and also hit the notification bell so that you'll be notified whenever new videos come up from me. And I will see you guys soon in my next one. All right, bye.